So, for the one person in my audience who didn't know, Deltarune Chapter 5 came out recently. It was like Toby Fox saw me running out of ideas for Deltarune videos and was like,
"Bring that boy more sustenance."
Oh, and the chapter was pretty good too. It was the best chapter gameplay-wise, and in my opinion, it's contending with Chapter 2 as the funniest chapter. I'm going into a lot of different stuff, so let me put a little spoiler warning on screen if you're like my friends and haven't played the game yet. I keep sending them photos of lakes and they act confused. Anyways, with those spoiler-free people out of the way, yeah, Chapter 5 was pretty awesome sauce. The dynamic between all three Delta Warriors is always a treat, the festival was really good, minus one part, and its focus on Ralsei was an absolute delight. I swear though, someone was talking to Toby one day and went, "Man, Hollow Knight Silksong was such a good game." And then Toby looked them dead in the eyes and went, "Yes, it was a good game, wasn't it?" But out of everything in the chapter, the main standout to me were the enemies. A lot of the basic enemies we faced were really fun and memorable. Flowery was an awesome boss who I really want to make a video on, and Green was my favorite flower. What can I say? Cheesebank won me over. But one of the most interesting and controversial enemies that came from Chapter 5 is the Shadow Crystal boss. When Sham told all of us that this was the final one, I'm sure everybody was hyped. The expectations were high. It could be Gaster or one of his followers, maybe even Friend. Well, Toby heard those pleas for that pink and gold cat, and delivered. Pink genuinely caught me off guard, but despite my initial shock, I had a lot of fun with this fight. The Purple Soul's return was cool, I liked the dating mechanics, Hatsune Miku was pretty rad, and the Bomberman attack can go die in a hole. After all that, I wanted to see what other people were saying about the fight. And that's when I checked social media and realized that a lot of people did not like it. The main complaint I hear about Pink is that compared to the other Shadow Crystal bosses, she doesn't have any build-up or impact the story in any way. Even some of my commenters were saying this, and when comparing her impact on the story to the other crystal holders, they're kinda right. You have to admit that Pink's impact on the story of Deltarune is weaker than the likes of Spamton and Gerson. Jevil can stay right there. But despite that, she isn't a nothing boss. Not only is her personal story incredibly strong, but I feel like Pink is one of the best crystal bosses in what she represents. She connects to many different characters in such interesting ways, with these connections being incredibly compelling. Not to mention the disturbing secrets found within the lyrics of her theme. Lyrics that could foreshadow something horrifying. Now before we start, if you want to become a channel member and get your OC as a background character in my videos, the top post in my community tab has the details on that. Anyways, let's talk about why I believe Deltarune Chapter 5's secret boss matters. To start things off, let's go over Pink's build-up. We're first introduced to Pink, or at least a part of her, during the festival, with Asgore having this anime catgirl figurine on his truck that he uses as a mascot for his store. We then meet her second half when interacting with the ghost-shaped house, where a voice angrily talks about how Asgore was showing off her body, saying how it was all hers while simultaneously calling him attractive, which is very real. We get even more hints about her involvement in Chapter 5 while exploring Castletown, where both Sham and the hacker reference her. And with the hacker, I was too distracted by the fact they reference Roblox and Dress to Impress to notice. But yeah, pre-Dark World, they toss us some crumbs of who the Shadow Crystal boss is. And while in the Dark World itself, we encounter a shopkeeper who is almost guaranteed to be Pink, but it would make sense why people would have some doubts. For one, the shop itself was incredibly dull in terms of color, with melancholy music playing in the background, a sharp contrast to the flashy boss we see later. We see this shopkeeper facing away from us and staring longingly at the sunset, cherishing it greatly. When talking to her, she seems almost unaware she's running a shop. With her being too distracted by her environment, she questions if the sunset was always this beautiful, telling us that the world she comes from is dull and bleak, with this one being much better. And as we continue talking, we learn about how she associates identity through physicality, believing that a person's body is what defines them. Lastly, she speaks on how she never knew how lonely she truly was until coming to this world, with the sunset making her realize her loneliness, telling us that in this world, she'll make many different friends. After buying a key offer, we finally get access to the boss, and after all this, I thought to myself, oh my god, we're gonna fight the red flower! You know, the one we've never seen before. My mental capacity wasn't exactly at 100% when I played the game. Right before we fight Pink, we learn that she's taken on a big sister role for Orange, showing how she made true on her vow to make friends in this world, with her taking the name Pink as a way of blending in with the other flowers. And something interesting about her encounter is that she isn't initially hostile to the Fun Gang, with her even asking Orange to apologize to them in order to keep the peace. It wasn't until the heroes revealed that they were going to seal the Dark Fountain that she chose to attack, telling them that she loves this world and won't let them take it all away. And during her battle, it's revealed that Pink is separated into a physical Darkner body and a Ghost Lightner host. So, is Pink a they-them because there's two people in one body, or a she-her because they're two halves that come together to make a single whole who identifies as a she? I feel like it could be either, but like I said earlier, her battle was fun and the message from it was very sweet. While I can't personally confirm anything, many people online said that Pink's story was very good trans representation, and I think that's great. I think it's really interesting how Pink's jealousy at her physical body being flirted with stemmed from her own self-hatred. She realized that she couldn't just puppet around her physical body and bend it to her will. The ghost part of Pink learned that in order to truly love and live with her ideal body, she first had to love herself. And after that, the battle ended with the two of them truly becoming a whole. It was very beautiful. And after the fight, she and Orange relax in her shop, embracing the sunset for as long as she can before it all comes to an end. Also, they can go on a date with Chris because the body likes them. A date that's immediately fumbled because of Susie and Ralsei. But in all honesty, it was probably for the best, considering Chris doesn't seem to like anime. Anyways, Pink's story is a great one, and it's made even better if you've played Undertale. In Undertale, Pink, or in this case Mew Mew's story, revolves around her trying to find a body to fuse with. And for context, ghosts can fully fuse with their bodies by experiencing intense emotions. She would eventually come across a very familiar Catgirl doll, with her believing great anger would allow her to completely fuse. And once the human spares her, she learns that other emotions could be used to fuse besides rage, with the human introducing her to love. And while she failed to completely fuse, she told the human she was making progress. And after what we watched in Deltarune, Pink showing both her body and herself true love, it's then that she finally becomes a whole. And while they were still technically two separate beings, it was beautiful watching her full arc, an arc that spanned 2 games and a decade. So from what I've told you, it's clear that Pink's story is really good, and it's one that many people resonate with. But now you're probably asking, how does she relate to the story of Deltarune as a whole? Well, let's get into that. So while Pink doesn't really affect Deltarune's overall story, she's actually very thematically intertwined with the game's main characters. Her story and fight reflect each member of the Fun Gang and their character development. Let's start off with the most obvious. While going through the fight, it's quite clear that Pink's story reflects Chris's, with both characters struggling with their body autonomy, along with the physical body needing this otherworldly aspect of themselves in order to survive, with the one controlling the body eventually becoming at odds with it. Also, Pink's physical body's text bubble is a giant red heart, which is very on the nose. The aspects of this battle not only reflect Chris's journey throughout the game, but it also reflects another character that shares a similar plight to Chris. Pink is, in a lot of ways, a parallel to Spamton. Both use these bodies that 2 light world ghosts dream of having, both carry this pink and gold motif, and they both struggle with control. But while Spamton desired to escape his strings, Pink discovered coexistence and mutual care. While Spamton pushed everyone in his life away from him, Pink let people in. Hell, during Pink's struggle with autonomy, we see those familiar green strings appear on her body. The Dealmakers even specifically resist puppet and cat attacks. Their parallels were very intentional. Through Spamton, Chris saw what could happen to them if they tried to break free of the soul's control, with him becoming a lifeless husk on the ground, a sight that terrified them. But through Pink, Chris was able to see coexistence. A scenario where both vessel and body have equal say in the matter, not only because of survival, but through mutual love as well. In short, Pink serves as this other route for Chris when it comes to how they interact with the soul, showing that there is a possibility for us to finally see eye to eye with them. Not only that, but Ralsei angrily telling Pink that her body is its own person with its own wants and needs is a message directed at the player. The game's trying to tell us that we haven't taken control of some mindless vessel. We're in the body of a person with their own wants and needs, with them deserving a say in what happens too. Which hopefully foreshadows a moment where we finally interact with Chris. An interaction that could help reach mutual understanding and cooperation. We certainly need it, because right now, everything's pointing towards Chris being a traitor. Overall, Pink's battle greatly reflects Chris and their story up until this point, and could further represent a path they could take when interacting with the soul. Moving on, Pink's battle also reflects Ralsei's massive growth as a character. For one, even at the start of the battle when we just watch him interact with Orange, his taunts towards her were genuinely surprising and show just how far he's come as a character. Chapter 1 Ralsei would be so appalled at seeing how Chapter 5 Ralsei acts. During the earlier parts of the game, Ralsei believed that a Darkner's purpose was to serve the Lightners, even going as far as saying that he couldn't fulfill the role of a friend because of his identity and predetermined purpose. And in his conversation with Tenna, he calls Darkners obsolete. Hell, he let his friends use him as a stool. But through his journey with Chris and Susie, we see just how much he's grown. It's most likely that his view of Darkners stemmed from what he saw in the prophecy, with his personality change in Chapter 5 being caused by hope that the prophecy could change and his defiance of it. Within Pink's battle, we can see firsthand how Ralsei's struggles with purpose and identity have developed. When Pink splits into two separate beings, Ralsei tells the Lightner side of Pink that her body is a Darkner with its own wants and needs, telling her that it too deserves a say in what happens. Ralsei's words show how his views of Darkners have changed throughout his journey, recognizing them as being just as important as Lightners. His anger and the belief that Darkners deserve a say in what happens can also be interpreted as his verbal defiance against the prophecy, disavowing his role in it and instead following his own path with his friends, a path where he gets a say in who he is. And if you're someone who subscribes to the trans Ralsei theory, it could be interpreted as Ralsei defying their predetermined identity as the Prince from the Dark and allowing themselves to become whatever they choose to be. The trans Ralsei theory is pretty good, and it gained a lot more momentum this chapter primarily thanks to Mr. Flowery. Through Pink's battle, we can see firsthand how Ralsei's grown in both his identity and purpose. Now, I initially thought that Pink's battle only reflected aspects of Chris and Ralsei, but it turns out there are a lot of parallels between her and Susie, with the main one being their mutual escapism. And in a way, Pink serves as foreshadowing for Susie's complete embracement of the Dark World. Like we talked about earlier, Pink viewed their life in the Light World as dull and bleak, with her behavior in the shop and its color palette reflecting her thoughts, a viewpoint that Susie most likely shares. Since, out of every character, she seems to be the one who values the Dark Worlds the most. Pink's entire reason for fighting the Fun Gang was to try and prevent them from sealing the Dark Fountain, as unlike the Flowers who wanted to maintain it to help Asgore, she just wanted to live in a bright and beautiful world where she could live happily with her desired body and friends. Not only were Pink and Susie drawn to the Dark World because of their unhappy lives in the Light World, but their attraction also seems to stem from their unhappiness with their identities. In Chapter 4, Susie tells Chris about how when she was a kid, she was refused access to a piano simply because she wasn't good at it, because she looked like she shouldn't be good at it. But in the Dark World, she was able to overcome her insecurities, becoming a skilled healer. It showed her that in the Dark World, she could become a version of herself that she liked, with countless friends surrounding her, a belief that Pink shared as well. She too was someone who disliked her identity, finding a place where she can become a version of herself that she liked. After you finish fighting her, there's a line from Pink in her shop that I find really interesting. "I'm not just ready to leave my friends behind yet, but is that something anyone's ready for?" It's a line that makes me wonder what the end of Deltarune's gonna bring. Could it be telling us that at the end, we're gonna have to seal Castletown and say goodbye to everyone? Or is someone from the light world going to be killed? Who knows? But, like Pink, one day Susie's gonna have to say goodbye. Man, Pink is honestly a really good character, but I wonder, am I missing something? Oh yeah, the fact that the lyrics of her song directly reference the Weird Route. Now there are a lot of different translations for Cutie Mew Mew Magic in English, but taking from this YouTuber Violetta FG's translation, the lyrics of this song include, and I quote, "A wish that surpasses hell is the cutie revolution. The world falls into darkness while a rhythm echoes inside my mind. She's saving the day, you are all that matters. She is a Mew Mew girl, she's the Mew Mew cutie. Keep proceeding onward with all your strength. That's the cutie revolution. The world's massacre, this time beneath the water. She's saving the day, you are everything. She's saving the play, it's freezing here. She's saving the play, I don't understand these lyrics. Let's proceed with Cutie Mew Mew Magic. To you, my sweet one with this dizzying with you love. But with a deep heart squeezing tighter, I make up my mind. Cutie twin, Cutie 2, world salvation you." Now I know translating's kind of rough and certain aspects can change from person to person, but holy crap. From further research, the words drown or underwater suffocation are prevalent, along with revolution, world slaughter, saving the day, cold or freezing, and the actual phrase, I don't know the lyrics. There's a lot to unpack. But of course, the words relating to drown obviously represent the incident within Chapter 5. And along with the lines about freezing in 2, it's clear that the song is about Chris and Noelle. But I think the most interesting aspect of the song is the phrase when talking about using Cutie Mew Mew Magic. The words I found when you use it are proceed, transform, become 2, and brand new. And from that, I have a theory. When a human dies in Undertale, their soul persists after death. And with their soul laid bare, a monster is able to absorb it. And once absorbed, they become a horrific creature. What if Cutie Mew Mew Magic is hinting at the fact that Chris and Noelle will fuse after they drown, transforming into something new, something horrific? Pink's whole gimmick is two entities coming together to become one. So what if this term Cutie Mew Mew Magic describes two souls coming together, foreshadowing what happened to Chris and Noelle? Now, like I said earlier, there's a lot of different interpretations of these translations, so I don't want to go too deep into analysis. But in short, the lyrics within Pink's song, when translated, detail the events of Chapter 5's Weird Route, and potentially things that could happen in the future. A truly horrific revelation that emphasizes the importance of Pink even more. Pink is a character that does a lot. She reflects Chris's struggles with autonomy, Susie's escapism, and Ralsei's growth in his identity and purpose. Many people call Jevil the introduction to Shadow Crystal bosses, and, to put it in a pretentious video essayist metaphor, Pink serves as the conclusion paragraph to them. Her fight restates the ways each member of the Fun Gang have developed, and could potentially show the ways each of them will grow in the future. Maybe Chris will learn how to cooperate with the soul and find a mutual understanding. Maybe Susie will learn how to love herself in the light world, and maybe Ralsei will gain the ability to truly choose who he wants to be. And maybe Pink's battle foreshadows what Noelle and Chris are going to become in the future of the Weird Route. And if I had to classify Pink in terms of her freedom, it would definitely be the freedom of identity. But all of this is just my own interpretation. If you have your own ideas for why Pink matters, let me know in the comments below. And with that, thank you all for watching, my name's Kustopia, and I will see you all under the water.